Okay, Jeff and myself are at the World War I Museum, and we're going into the actual museum. But as you could see down there, there's artificial poppies, and as I recall, and Jeff concurred, each poppy represents, a certain number of people that were killed in a war, both civilians and soldiers. I think it's like a couple thousand or so. So here we go on our journey.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Remember, your ticket's good for 2 consecutive days.
Cool.
The movie is just getting over. It's a 12-minute introductory movie. Gives you a real good timeline that led up to the start of the First World War. So if you want to go on in, you're in good shape.
You want to just go to the... Which way should we go first?
The movie,
Well, if we want to bypass the movie.
this starts the tour.
Okay.
The timeline, there's a timeline wall that starts June 1914 and goes to about March of 1917.
Now, what are each of the poppies, how many people do they represent?
Each poppy represents 1,000 combat deaths in the First World War. So there's 9,000 of them, which represents about 9 million combat deaths. Overall, there were about 38 million casualties in the First World War.
Wow. Great.
The United States lost around 50-some thousand.
Yeah, but the United States only entered it at the end, the beginning of 1918?
They officially declared war at the end of March 1917. So the war was over November.
In November, but when did the troops deploy?
About 3 months later.
Okay, so they were in country for about a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Okay, do.
More on the way.
Oh, this is nice.
You want to see the introductory film? It's not ready to start.
We're familiar with it.
Okay, all right.
Thanks. Now, these actual relics from the war?
Yes, everything is actual relics, artifacts from the war.
Sure, okay.
Except the airplanes.
Okay.
They're hand-built to give you a perspective of how what men flew in, sitting on top of a gas tank, no parachute.
Yeah, no parachute. Cool. So we go around this way?
You go counterclockwise,
Okay.
so in the center we have a chronology board.
Okay.
Black on white tells you what's happening in the war. The gray area talks about things that are happening outside the war. Babe Ruth playing baseball for the Boston Red Sox. 1916, we elect the first woman congresswoman from Montana, Jeanette Rankin.
Cool.
Goes all the way through to the other side, 1914 and 1919. Halfway around, there'll be a film dealing with why the United States finally gets involved. This first half is the European War.
Big guns. And for the most part,
Yeah,
I guess they were carried, they were
Artillery was a killer of
Yeah.
the war.
as it is in most wars, but
Yeah,
obviously they were, for the most part, they were pulled by horses and not by trucks.
no, trucks couldn't put it.
Right.
You pull off a bumper.
So I had to have some strong horses.
Yeah, the big Belgian draft horses or mules or oxen.
Now, Jeff, did you have any relatives that were in the war?
Yes.
I mean, I know your family's been around here for years and years. In fact, per the camera, as I told you last year, I was reading in one of the books about the Oregon Trail, and there was a bifocal. So I immediately thought of you, and it's not the most common name in the world.
No, it's not. Was it the Bifocal Mine?
I might have been, but I just recall reading about some bifocal who was well known crossing the trail. So I figured it was one of your clan.
Yes, it was.
Drop your ticket, did you?
I don't think so, but I'll take another one.
Don't combo.
Thank you.
But the museum itself was new. It wasn't built at the same time that the memorial was
Right,
done.
I remember because this looks brand new. And I'm just wondering where they got all the relics from. It was from, say, the National Archives or just people donating them
My understanding, this is the only World War I museum.
in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a museum to fucking Malcolm X and all these other knuckleheads. So you were saying that you did have relatives that were in World War I? Oh, wow. See, my family came over the river later than that, so they were recent arrivals.
I even had a couple of relatives in the Revolutionary War.
Really? Wow. Did somebody in your family go back and do a genealogy thing?
Yes.
Cool. Any famous people?
No.
Any infamous people?
No.
I do have an infamous person in my family.
Yeah, fill me in.
It was my Irish side. One of my grandfather's uncles came here after the Civil War, and he was working in the Pennsylvania coal mines, all Irish people. And he opened up a bar, tavern, and he was involved in this organization called the Ancient Order of Hibernians and the Molly Maguires, which was a precursor to the Unions because the English folks or the people, the Americans who owned the mines, they exploited the Irish workers, the Welsh, and everyone else. So the Molly Maguires were trying to sort of like organize, and there was some rifts going on, and a number of people were killed. And my great uncle was accused of murder or accessory to murder. And they had the trial in 1876, and he was convicted, but apparently it was supposedly a kangaroo court
Yeah.
because all the jurors didn't speak English. So he was hung, but before he was hung, he was declaring himself, claiming he was innocent, and he was in this jail cell in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, which was some other town before that. And as he was, right before he was going to the gallows, he proclaimed his innocence and put his hand on the wall, and legend has it that the handprint is still there.
Huh.
And some of my cousins have been there.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But my grandfather, he never really spoke about it. It was just like, they were ashamed of him. But then years later, a relative was an author, and they pretty much said that, he was, they're not definitive as far as whether he was guilty or innocent, but he didn't get due process, and there was really no court. So that's my story.
Somewhere in Pennsylvania, not Pennsylvania, it was during the Revolutionary War. Gosh darn, wish I could remember the details now. Had a relative that was serving with George Washington.
Really?
And British were coming. Troops were, they didn't feel they had enough troops to combat the British that were coming their way. And the Breyfogle, at that time spelled Breyvogel, blew up a bridge and kept him from advancing.
Cool.
So he's actually got a little,
Nice.
little monument
Oh, yeah.
there. Can't be Pennsylvania though, could it?
Pennsylvania, maybe New York or Virginia.
Yeah, more likely.
Now, when did your relatives come across to Missouri and out here?
Oh, more recent. Actually, we were the first ones here.
Are your parents and grandparents?
Yeah, see, they were predominantly Pennsylvania, then predominantly Ohio, and then from there split off to Michigan, St. Louis, or St. Louis area, I should say. And some of them from Michigan split off to, believe it or not, Overland Park.
Oh. So every once in a while, is there a bifocal family reunion? Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. Must be hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you have? Do you have it out around here?
Last one was in Vegas.
Oh, nice. Now, do you know a lot of the people?
No.
You know, you think about it, the war started in 1914, and by the time the Americans entered, it was over 3 years later, and there was only a year left. And
Yeah.
I mean, still lots of carnage and blood, but not nearly to the extent in the early days.
Although the attack contained some of its initial objectives, German resistance remained strong. A second supporting attack at Moronvilliers to the
This is really cool stuff.
as German defenders dug in. On April 23rd, the French president called a halt to the offensive. The Allies gained a few
It's said that there's really no sense of history around here. You'd figure that this place would be really crowded, school kids, and
and order was not restored until Nivelle was dismissed and replaced by
I guess it's so distant from people today.
Yeah.
I mean, at least when we were growing up, there was the chance that grandparents
Exactly.
had fought, and there was still, you know, when we were kids, there was still a lot of World War I veterans around. In fact, there was a guy who lived fairly close to me. He was one of the last surviving World War I aces, and my father always wanted to go up and see me. He said, "Oh, I want to go see this guy. I want to go." And I, you know, typical kid, blew it off. But one day my father went up there and he was talking to the guy for a while. And, you know, a few years ago, I just looked him up on the internet. And he was like, shot down like 20 German planes.
The German commanders believed would capture Paris within 6 weeks. At first, all went according to plan, although unexpected Belgian resistance at Liège and the arrival of the British Expeditionary Force briefly delayed the German advance. In the east, German forces defeated French attacks at Mulhouse and Lorraine. By mid-August, the Allies were in retreat as German forces swung
What time is the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, the Royals playing today?
I thought it was 2:30.
Oh,
counterattack at Giza. German troops were less than
I'm surprised how early that is.
Odd time.
I figured that they would want it later, for at least the TV audience.
I think if we'd have been playing the Yankees, it would have been the later game, but I think the Mets game was probably getting the evening.
Holy something. Oh, I guess this is like barbed wire stuff. Oh yeah. Oh, so I guess this was the post that they would put in the ground for the barbed wire, and they would wrap the barbed wire around. Oh yeah, you see this guy.
On August 17, 1914, 2 weeks after the beginning of the war, 2 Russian armies invaded East Prussia. The speed and aggressiveness of the Russian assault surprised the Germans, who soon became much longer than Russia could resist forces. In most of Germany's forces concentrated in the offensive against France.
So I've been to Gettysburg a few times, and there's a lot of relics, but they will say at the bottom of the description if it was donated, if it was picked up on a battlefield or whatever. I'm surprised they don't have anything here like that.
You're right.
How's your son doing?
Good.
He's got a cute little girlfriend.
She is such a good they've been dating
For a while.
Yeah, over a year. It was a year last September.
How old is he now?
14.
So is he a freshman or sophomore? Oh. One of my buddies, his son is going to a sophomore year of high school, and he's been dating the same girl, I think since he was 8th grade or freshman year of high school. Yeah.
She moved here from Kentucky just before school started last year, and she's got a twin brother, and Sid was assigned her brother to show him around the school, introduce him around.
Nice.
And so they went to, they met at the high school football game.
He used that bifocal charm to woo her.
That's what it was. So ran into the twin at the game, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I see you post or you link to a bunch of his pictures on the on Facebook. Looks like a very happy couple.
And that's usually
By
my wife.
early May, Turkish and Allied troops faced each other.
Doesn't want Facebook account, so she just hijacks mine.
Oh, okay.
On August 6th, the Allies attempted to break the deadlock with another naval invasion at Sula Bay.
Jeez, these things are so big. You even think about how they even carried them.
Recognizing defeat, Allied forces began.
But typically what they would have is they would have one person this part of the machine gun, sometimes you'd be able to separate it from that and then this. But I don't even think it looks like it's welded shut, so I don't know how they'd be able to move that. Or maybe it was just a static position where something like this would be able to be moved.
The Allies advanced during the summer. Allied troops brushed aside Turkish counterattacks and emerged victorious at An-Nasiriyah and Al-Amra. And on September 27th and 28th, they captured Al-Amra. However, the Allied force was overextended and inadequately supplied. On November 22nd, Turkish defenders held firm at the Battle of Sitzfon. The Allies fell back to
Those gas masks don't look like they protect a whole lot.
Nah, I don't think so.
Forced to surrender in April 1916. The Allied defeats
Bad stuff.
in Mesopotamia were a terrible blow to Allied morale and ended any hope of quickly defeating the Ottoman Empire. After signing the secret Treaty of London and joining the Allies, Italy declared war on Austria-Hungary on May 23, 1915, hoping to win extensive territory.
You know what, you would think after how many people were killed, the Germans lost in World War I, they would have thought twice
As soon
about
as
it.
war was declared, Italy launched its first offensive across the Isonzo River. The Italian attack only made small gains around Gorizia before it bogged down.
I mean, every life is precious, but we, in Iraq and Afghanistan, we lost maybe 8,000 people, and that was like a true tragedy. So you could just imagine losing something like that. Even World War II.
Yes.
Yeah, the U.S. only lost about 500,000 people.
Yeah, most everyone had a relative, most everybody knew somebody
Yep.
who was affected.
Yeah. And then you go back to like the Civil War, it was like equivalent to 2 or 3% of the U.S. population. But say 2 or 3% of the U.S. population now, that'd be like 9 million people. How was your summer? Did you go to the Ozarks much?
Virtually every weekend.
How long have you had your place there?
This one we've had 5 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, you had a place previous? Now, isn't there a couple lakes there? Or is it just Table Rock?
Table Rock is further south.
Okay.
Table Rock is close to the Arkansas state line.
So this is actually Lake of
Lake
the
of the
Ozarks.
Ozarks. It was built for recreation.
Oh,
Table Rock, Bull Shoals, and Taneycomo, which are 3 lakes that kind of link together through Missouri and Arkansas. They were built by Oregon.
It rained frequently. The water could neither seep down nor run off on this impermeable, almost flat terrain. Our trenches served as its channels. After every downpour, we emptied the water. The walls of the
you know
trenches
what? I was
gave.
never there. That amazes us. I couldn't afford to go to Orchid Ball. I was out to dinner with this girl last night. I was telling her, you know, when I went to college, I had one suit. She's very, very wealthy. And I was telling her I had one polyester suit, one fake silk shirt, and one tie. And I wore that all the time. And, you know, when we were pledges, we'd probably wear that twice a week because inevitably somebody got caught skipping, Frick got caught skipping class. Frick. I can't believe the guy.
That's just astounding.
You know, it's...
He was always creepy, but I never thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, that. It's really sad what he did. And he deserves to be in jail for the rest of his life. I mean, you know what? There's nothing you could say. I mean, especially what he did. I mean, it's not like he actually, say, did a Bill Cosby where he drug them. I mean, he beat these girls senseless.
Well, I think he intended to kill the one.
How many? I know he got convicted of the one, and then a year later they found DNA that did a DNA link to another. Was there any more?
I don't think so.
But he must have done it. I mean, if you're caught twice, you know, you just think about how many times you didn't get caught. Yeah. And you know, the thing is, he had sisters. So how could he? Yeah, he did. You know, a couple of years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, I tried calling up Julie Frisella, and she really didn't want to talk at all. You know, I just said, you know, what's going on and this and that, and I guess maybe she was so disgusted with her brother, all of his escapades over the years. This place is huge. Did they have fundraisers here in Kansas City for this, or was it all corporate donations?
Both.
planes were made out of. I didn't realize these planes were made out of cloth. The German insignia says it comes from the top wing of a German plane, so it's made out of cloth. You know, a little crappy wood frame, and then wrap it in cloth.
What would this have been used for?
Probably maybe observation. I think a lot of the planes, they started out for observation purposes, and then somebody would bring a grenade or a bomb and just drop it. And then they figured out how to time the propellers to put a machine gun in there so the machine gun wouldn't shoot right through.
To activate this station, point the pin and press the red button.
Now, where's Tracy and Kim supposed to meet us?
Haven't figured it out yet. They're not too far from us. They're down in what's called the West Bottoms.
Oh, they got a place there?
No,
Oh,
no. They West Bottoms is an area that used to be the old Stockyard District.
oh, okay, that's where they're staying?
No,
That's where they're hanging out?
that's where they're hanging out right now.
Ah, okay.
Old warehouses down there have been abandoned for years.
And they've renovated them, and
Yep.
restaurants and all that other stuff.
Well, mostly it's
Shopping.
shopping. They're open first full weekend of the month, and it's all repurposed furniture. It's
Really?
almost like a fancy garage sale.
Oh,
But you could spend a good 8-10 hours, trust me, my wife has done it, hitting all the places.
wow, look at this. Some pretty good condition.
Unbelievable.
You know, there's supposedly a tank here, an actual World War I tank that has a hole from where it was hit by like a bazooka or something like that.
So yeah, the first weekend of the month becomes somewhat of it's gotten to the point where it's actually somewhat of a social event. They'll have bands down there, and the places will have wine and appetizers. There's a medical department for soldiers that were hurt.
Like the ambulance. What else are we looking for?
Activate this station, point the pin and press the red button.
Said Judy was asking for reports. No.
Chalices? It's trench art. Apparently the troops would be bored in the trenches and they would make folk art out of the artillery shells and stuff like that. Wow. I've been to a couple antique shows where they sell them. Huh. Fascinating.
To activate this station, point the pin and press the red button.
They served on both sides.
To activate this station, point the pin and press the red button.
Dan Dorr swore me to secrecy, but there's possibility that the Sigma Pies might buy the DG house. And DG's, because they want to expand, and the Sig Pie house, it's on a bigger piece of property. So Dan was saying that the DGs are looking to sell their house for like 1.4 million, and they would pay Sigma Pi like $1 million for the property, and they would build something at 808 South Providence. But he says that they've been in discussions with it for a while, but he said, no, you can't tell anybody. So, fuck it. Yeah, can you believe that? That's a nice house.
It's a gorgeous house from the outside.
But apparently, and I'm sure you've been there more times than me, it seems that all the fraternities and sororities are knocking down their houses and building new ones. I mean, it's just, the money just must be incredible that they have.
Yeah.
And even the Sigma Pies, they have over 100 members.
That's astounding.
That's really shitty what they did to Steel Sun. A bunch of prima donnas.
I don't get it. I mean, is there something
You know what?
that we don't know?
Well, no. I mean, Dan said he's a good kid, but they said he just didn't fit in. But then at the same time, I think Dan Dorr or Jay Jern, if they said, you will give him a bid, they would have. I mean, because they control the purse strings. So I think there's more to it.
Forces launched their last offensive of the war, an attack on the Mound River near Lambs. The final German assault ground to a halt on July 17th as fresh Allied reinforcements, including over 85,000 American soldiers, arrived to reinforce British defenders of the front. The exhausted German forces were moved back in response to seeing his chance, fought a counter. On July 18th, French armies, supported by American and British units, The Allies launched a counteroffensive near Amiens. The Amiens campaign was the first in a series of Allied attacks along the Western Front that slowly began to drive the Germans out of France and Belgium. In early August, Allied commanders secretly gathered their forces around the Somme River. On August 8th, the British Fourth Army and the French First Army, supported by 400 tanks, assaulted German positions. The attack, which was preceded by only a brief artillery bombardment, surprised German defenders. By the end of the day, Allied forces had punched a 15-mile gap through the German defenses and captured many prisoners. German commanders would later refer to August 8th as the Black Day of the German Army. Allied forces exploited the hole in the German lines, but the initial advance slowed as the attacking tanks broke down or were lost to enemy fire. The first phase of the battle ended on August 11th, by which point the Allies had driven German defenders back more than 4 miles. The fighting around Amiens entered a second phase on August 21st, when the British and French armies launched another round of attacks. The renewed offensive pushed the Germans back even further and captured tens of thousands of additional prisoners. The Allied success was a clear sign that the Germans' forces on the Western Front were starting to crumble. By August 19th, the American forces Commander General George Hershey was anxious to demonstrate that American soldiers could fight under their leadership. Hershey launched an offensive against the heavily defended Somme salient, a German European position southeast of Canton. Hershey planned to attack the German stronghold on both flanks, driving the defenders back and capturing the town of Somme. 2 American divisions were to attack the west, while 7 more American divisions of French units attacked to the north. Realizing that an attack was imminent, the Germans began withdrawing their forces in early September. On the morning of September 12th, American forces began their attack after a preliminary artillery launch. The German withdrawal left their forward positions lightly defended, and the advancing American force exposed its objectives well ahead of schedule. Hershey ordered his forces to drive forward and cut off as many of the retreating Germans as possible. As they advanced, the Americans captured 15,000 German prisoners. By September 16th, the battle was over, and Somme was in Allied hands. The Somme offensive showed that American forces were capable of mounting sustained campaign against German forces, and increasing numbers of American troops would be thrown into battle as Allied forces advanced across the Western Front. In late September 1918, French and American forces mounted a joint attack on the German lines along the rivers and through the Algon Forest. The Meuse-Argonne offensive was the largest American campaign during World War I and would continue until the last day. On September 26th, the American First Army...
Some additional features in the driver's compartment are as follows. The canvas white seat back,
Many of the American forces had never seen combat before, but they outnumbered the German defenders and advanced more than 6 miles. The attack captured the key Montfaucon heights before bogging down as German reinforcements rushed to the area. American forces renewed the assault on October 4th. Rugged terrain and German enemy resistance stalled their advance. As casualties mounted, the offensive paused again in October. On November 1st, the American First Army and Second Army launched a fast American offensive through the attack overwhelmed German defenders, and American forces began to retreat German troops forwards. The American offensive later led to German resistance on the Western Front. In early November 1918, Allied and German representatives entered Belgium.
There's a Missouri boy, Jeff.
I'm sorry?
There's a Missouri boy. Huh.
After 4 years of terrible combat, consequences of wars, Germany was asking
send photographs home. So we're in the way.
I cannot write you a very long letter I was wounded just a week ago today by shrapnel in the leg. None of the wounds are serious. They operated on me at the evacuation hospital and I'm getting
Supposed to represent the
Have been
show
getting the best of
creator.
care and plenty to eat.
Oh.
Don't worry about me.
I saw 6 colored officers in Chaumont. The colored officers sit with the whites up here at Nogent sur Bassinier, and at concerts are often right up in the front row. Equal rights in war, and I trust eventually everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Oh, wow. Check it. There it is. I guess those guys, they didn't make it. If there was anybody in there. You know, all the news footage from World War I always seemed like the tanks were much bigger than they actually were.
Yeah,
They're not that
representative. It's small.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
The United States Congress refused to join and never ratified the Treaty of Versailles. Negotiations for all war-torn nations continued for more than 4.5 years, a process lasting longer than the war itself. And still, the world was not at peace. For those who lost loved ones, making peace with this war will require a lifetime. In America, others of fallen soldiers
Bloodstains, looks like. I don't know why they have this drawn. I don't know why they have this drawn where you can't.
over 6,500 mothers visited the graves of their sons. The war had been only closely down over 9 million lives and a million civilians.
Did you notice that motorcycle was a Harley Davidson?
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh. I bet it's worth a lot of money.
I bet you're right.
The Central Powers finally crumbled under the load of the war. In 1918, at the 11th hour, of the 11th day of the 11th month, the armistice began on the Western Front.
You know, they're still finding remains from World War I. Yeah, a lot of the farmers, what they do is they come across in France when they're plowing, they come across remnants of the trenches. So there's been a concerted effort the last few years to try and unearth some of the trenches. And because it was so wet and muddy, that when these guys were killed, it preserves the bodies pretty well. So they've been earthing lots of bodies the last few years.
Populations formerly ruled by the defeated imperial powers and the creation of a League of Nations, an international forum for the maintenance of long-term peace in the world. It was a world fragmented by war. The Allies separated the Ottoman Empire into French and British-controlled mandates and small independent states. And in the Pacific and in Africa, Allies divvied up German colonies. From the former Russian, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman empires, new states also emerged into independence, but old ethnic rivalries continued to undermine the peace. Russia reeled with the chaos of the Bolshevik Revolution. Britain's commitment to a Jewish national home in Palestine, alongside contradictory assurances to the Palestinian Arabs, set the stage for continuing conflict in the Middle